Shooting this picture was kind of fun because it brought me back to my childhood a little bit. I remember my mom, when we were kids, she had this big old typewriter, and this was before the days of computers, so I'm kind of dating myself here, but it was this big old typewriter. It was heavy. It looked like a suitcase, and you would lug it out of the closet, put it on the table, plug it in, and you'd hear this little fan or motor or something start spinning, and then you could type away. And I think the reason it had to be plugged in was because it wasn't purely mechanical. Some of all the keys really, you could touch them, but then there was some sort of motor that actually activated the lever or the hammer that typed the letter. Whereas a keyboard or a typewriter like this one in the picture, it's all mechanical. The key hammers are operated purely by the movement of your fingers pressing down. And so the harder you press, the harder it goes. Anyway, my wife and I had just had lunch at a place in downtown, in this little part of downtown. And on the way to the car, I saw this typewriter sitting here next to a couple other trinkets like this chair and this big spool. And I thought it would make for a really cool picture. Not necessarily because it's an old typewriter with some flowers or something growing out of it, but because the colors really kind of stood out to me. I like the bright red and blue or turquoise or whatever it is of the chair. I like the colors in the spool, and I thought the typewriter itself, by itself, it made kind of an interesting subject. But here it was with all these other colors, and then it had these plants growing out of it. And so it was kind of a cool little scene. Nothing is artificial here. Like, I didn't construct it. I didn't point anything or adjust anything. It was just set up this way with the name of the typewriter, the Royal typewriter, and the keys kind of facing me and the other things off in the background. I did have to kind of shift my viewpoint a little bit. I had to kind of squat down so I can get on eye level with this thing because it wasn't very high. And I had to figure out what aperture to use because I don't like getting too small, but then I also wanted a little bit of depth of field going on. I think I ended up shooting this at f1.8, and I don't normally do that. But when I was so far back, I figured I wasn't in danger of getting too shallow of the depth of field. But even so, you can see how the typewriter's in focus, but the foreground, that little corner of the table, is not. And that's, even though I'm standing pretty far away from it, we're still getting this depth of field going on. So it's kind of a cautionary tale, I guess, about shooting at such wide apertures. But anyway, I had fun taking this picture. It's one of those things where it's just a scene on a sidewalk. And it's the kind of thing that I've probably walked or driven past many times and never really thought about it. But the act of knowing that I had to do photos for this blog has continued over the past several years to keep my eyes sort of on the lookout for photo opportunities like this. And it was a fun way to take a picture and get to pause and consider a scene that normally I would just walk right on by.